this scene, we are enlightened by Anderson Dawes' claim that Earth's desire to have more than what they have been born with, breathing pure air, sun, and sunlight, is slightly tyrannical. The people of the belt are just people trying to survive. This is particularly unique because in so many science fiction stories, this type of thing goes unchallenged. The fact that anyone born in an environment with less or more gravity than our own bones and muscles are calibrated to would be utterly catastrophic to an individual's health. This is something that is really felt and understood through Jared Harris's performance. Real dread, real worry, real doubt, and real fight, a desire for some sort of resolution, or for that matter, revolution or resolution to the conflict on series. Thank you so much for joining me, and this is the Fanatics of Film. My name is Ben. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and this is just a quick thing. I am getting into back into the Expanse. Going to see how we're going to roll some of these videos out and see how well they do. Thanks again for joining me. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you again. Just immersing myself back into the Expanse universe, James Corey universe, the Leviathan Wakes. I guess these books were written back in 2011. The first book came out. So, and I was going to get into them earlier this year, and I just didn't have a chance. I've been so busy working, playing music, and working all the time. Catching up on the series because Expanse season 4 is upon us. HBO doesn't give their Watchmen date. I wonder if they're trying to just hold a line so people don't cancel and then resubscribe back at the time when their show comes out. It's interesting to know that it's like their release dates are held further back these days. I'm absolutely overwhelmed by the magnificence of this depressing and beautiful spacescape that we are introduced to. The deep blackness that we are catapulted into is only slightly softened by the warmth of a voice. Unravel as we are only made aware of the truth that is already out there. The size of this map has decided to have the Lord of the Rings map for lunch, and now Middle-earth has become a solar system. In the 23rd century, humans have colonized the solar system. The UN controls the Earth. That is a horrifying statement. Mars is an independent military power. Might be a little less horrific than the UN controlling Earth. The inner planets depend on the resources of the asteroid belt. Belters live and work in space. In the belt, air and water are more precious than gold. For decades, tensions have been rising. Earth, Mars, and the belt are now on the brink of war. All it will take is a single spark. Julie Mao is isolated and trapped, breaking out into more zero gravity. She is determined to get out and save herself. She is on the scopuli. She is overwhelmed with horror as she sees someone being eaten alive by the protomolecule. This living, breathing alien entity hums and mutters in alien tongue like digital bees. The next scene opens up, expanding our new universe, giving us no other decision but to move forward, realizing that Ceres is one of the most important because it is loaded with ice. Apparently, it has enough water for 1,000 generations. I can't help but be reminded slightly of ice pirates. Ceres is the largest object in the asteroid belt that lies between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. With a diameter of 945 kilometers, Ceres is both the largest of the asteroids and the only unambiguous dwarf planet inside Neptune's orbit. It is the 33rd largest known body in the solar system. So on we are to Kyle Gatehouse. His introduction is incredible. He shows us all that the Belters have been through. They haven't been given much, but apparently the water that came from Ceres was incredibly important to Earth. Does this mean that Earth's water supply has been destroyed? I don't know. This is an easy way to make Earth the villains. Joe Miller is insulted by Kyle Gatehouse being called a Wellwalla, a traitor to his people. Joe Miller and Dimitri Havelock are buddy cops. Joe is a Han Solo type. The next two stories unravel show two completely different experiences in the future timeline. Actually, three different experiences in the future timeline. A possibility of what might happen if we were to colonize the solar system. One story unfolds the possibilities of a middle-aged police officer, Joe Miller, one who is brash and clumsily graceful, kind of like Indiana Jones if Indy were a punk rock mohawk guy who has somehow found peace or separation from the concrete jungle by embracing a security blanket in the form of a fedora or whatever. This authority defying gunslinger finds himself in a buddy cop situation and continues to reveal to his new partner how to not save the entire series station because he has been limited for so long. Although slightly jaded, he is hopeful. He has confidence in himself, even though his surrounding friends don't seem to believe in him at all. All the people in his life seem to be just passing by as he passes his own life by. This reminds me of when none of my friends believed that I would be able to quit smoking. Haha! I subverted their expectations because I smoked for 10 years and then quit, and no one believed I could do it. That was about 12 years ago, a long time ago. The second of the three stories consists of an entire crew on the freighter, the Canterbury. Jim Holden, Amos Burton, Naomi Nagata, Shed Garvey, and a few others. These few unlikely heroes are investigating a distress signal from the abandoned scopuli where our first scene had taken place, and found a transmitter, something to lure them there, only to be cornered by a Martian cruiser. As they all quickly board and the Martian ship draws near, I am quickly reminded of how Alex Kamal is so much like Han Solo, with one-liners like, "My pleasure," and "Hold on tight, ladies and gentlemen." He definitely falls into that type of wheelhouse. We learn that Joe Miller has become his work, because that is simply all he has. When asked if he had kids, he exclaims, "Yeah, no, I missed that boat." Proceeding to torture the slumlord who hadn't kept air filters clean was something that a vigilante would do. He does these good deeds on the sidelines, hoping to make a difference. Anyway, it was an interesting paradoxical thing there. There are quite a few tragic deaths in the first few episodes. I can really see why they had called this show Game of Thrones in space. Spoiler alert: Ade Nygaard is immediately killed after we start to appreciate her candor and how she is very warm and passionate towards Jim Holden. Just after her surprising death, we learn why Jim likes to put sulfur in his coffee. Blinded by rage after witnessing Ade's death, Jim almost puts them all in jeopardy by insisting that they follow the anonymous perpetrators. Christian Avasarala. Enter Christian Avasarala, our third story. She is the head of the UN, therefore head of the Earth. Haha! If only the UN was as competent as the UN in this story. She is constantly immersed in discovering information that could potentially be a threat to her empire known as Earth. Throughout these interrogations, we learn that by colonizing, Earth has done nothing but create an entire nation of people who are unable to survive on Earth's climate by having these colonies. This type of repercussion tends to not be in the most people's original agenda. The kind of consequence is something that takes generations and generations to create, and so it makes it difficult to place blame on anyone because you would be just born into this situation. So this is very kind of an interesting paradoxical thing, interesting part to this, and something that I saw this after the second time I watched this, that this is just a very interesting part of that, is that these people are born into the situation. It's not like that they were just there, they're just kind of, it was handed to them. Christian is determined to acquire the information from the Belter, and she will continue. While out on the hull of their scavenged ship, Amos Burton reveals himself to be a slightly bipolar, unhinged, possible psychopath who could flip sides at the drop of a hat. That is very perfectly illustrated here and not to be ignored. Something that is definitely not to be ignored, something to recognize and remember. He has now become a wild card, as I am consistently reminded of how close the character development is to Game of Thrones. I do realize that so many of these characters could be interpreted as such, as a wild card or something else. But I think that Amos Burton is the guy to be concerned about. So the only person who can rein him in is Naomi Nagata, and she is played by Dominique Tipper. Very great character, by the way. Really, really awesome.